Monday, February 15th. This past week, I thought I was witnessing a new cleaning technique. Sweep all the junk out to the edge of the solarium and then hose it over the wall. Eventually, SkyTrack arrived with a big green dumpster, and all the mess was swept into it. I finally looked to the north and saw the tall crane lifting red steel pieces into place in the tower. Outside our balcony, the Beastie Boys are helping with window installation, but sometimes they get really bored. So dancing and singing begins as they wait for the next window to be installed. Then they lift and shift and try not to drop it off of the SkyTrack and put it back in place and nail it while other guys inside are nailing it as well. Below my balcony the other day, there was a new noise, kind of a rattle-clatter. When I looked down, I saw this worker going through bin after bin looking for a particular piece. He walked away muttering and shaking his head. Yellow waterproof seam sealers have worked their way around to the back, but they're running into a problem with the embankment and trying not to get a mouthful of tree branches. So he went away and came back with the little cat, and he proceeded to level the ground under the tree and remove some of the embankment so he could position the green machine closer to the windows. It was still a tight, scary fit with trees and ground, but finally they persevered and were able to begin to work on the west side of the building. Scaffolding ends to their left and the ground drops off, so they'll be here for several days. While the scaffolding is still in place, worker in the white jumpsuit has dropped down to the lower level and is spraying as much as he possibly can. Later, another worker comes along with a brush and a bucket and is making sure that every single corner is closed and waterproofed. Out on the end of the solarium, they are working on the flooring structure. There is a lot of power nailing and then follow-up hammering. Just above them, final frames for parapets are being installed. Howard Paul was concerned about the few missing pieces of plywood on the southwest corner, but it looks like they're going to address that problem today. One day, a flatbed with a crane arrived and was offloading extremely long pieces of wallboard. He had to be careful not to run into the temporary security railing. Orange Roller Cart could only handle 4 or 5 pieces of this stuff before they had to come back and offload the rest. Walking around on the street side one day, I see that the windows have all been trimmed out and seams have been sealed. SkyTrack stays steadily busy emptying trash as they unpackage all the things they're installing inside. Next day, when I walked up the street, I saw that a wall of windows had been installed on the south face. I noticed a new shiny piece of equipment, a little Skytrack named Jeannie. After the entire building had been sprayed mustard ugly, there was muttering among the residents again. As I watched this worker finish up filling in any missing places, I heard muttering and Jeannie saying, "I'm sure glad I'm the color of beautiful blue sky." Looking north, you can see that they have basically completed the 3rd floor of assisted living apartments. After a few more days, you can see the 4th floor framing has taken shape. This worker looks like he's auditioning for a high wire act. On the gray stucco of the woodshop, it looks like they might be installing an expansion joint. Inside the belly of the big green generator, a worker is checking and/or connecting. Standing on the casita wall, I can see down into the parking structure. This is where they store a lot of the things that are going to be installed. On the north side, Skytrack stays steadily busy feeding plywood and frames and other equipment up to those building the next layer. Along the C&M fence, I find these rows of metal strapping have been nailed to the building. They help with structural integrity. Crews on this side wave as we go by. It's nice to be missed. Near the end of the 4000 building, workers are using high-powered water spray to determine where the electrical lines are below ground. Big Guy is leaning against the concrete base from an old light pole. I noticed that the tall crane is gone. Oscar said all the red steel steps and part of the elevator frames have been installed. On the Sandia dining room, gray stucco has been applied above the external patio. Jan Hooper sent pictures of the work being done around the fitness classroom, of the multicolor stucco that is being added. She also took the picture of them going around the corner, but the trees are in the way. Larry Anderson sent this picture of the guys on the scaffolding applying the darkest color stucco. Weather kept changing through the week, and some of the skies were really dismal. My birthday baby Whitfield was 2 months old on February 4th. He still gets that wrinkly look on his face. His dad must be coming near to kiss him with that scratchy beard. Another day ends with a beautiful sunset.
Hi, from Independent Living, the 6000 wing. There are 2 things to notice right away. First, the 5th level is well underway. And second, nobody is working today. Note, our potty tracker reports its movement to the top level. And if you look just left of the potty, note there are metal straps on the particle board. They are to prevent Block Monster from ripping up the hole and crawling in between the levels to hide after he comes back from his nighttime mischief. Sometimes I call him Block Monster and sometimes I call him Brick Monster. His name is really Block Monster, but it's an old English custom that Brick is a nickname for Block. So there are a couple things to notice. First of all, there's a light dusting of snow everywhere, and that's probably why people aren't working. And secondly, As you can see, this level of framing is progressing just like the previous three. Hi, this is Jack Brayer. It's Wednesday, February 17th. It's about 10:30 a.m. It's sunny and 29 degrees. Overnight there was a light snow, which is pretty but not helpful. You may notice that the top of the frames stick up very high. The tops must be the parapets. Don't forget, the trusses still have to go on also. I like this shot, I think because of the nice scenery in the background. I haven't mentioned it before, but notice that the crane is gone. Maybe that means that the stairway is done? I didn't think so. Anyway, Wilbur is happy because that means that the crane's not hanging over his flight path. We end with a long view looking east. This week we talk about how we actually control Wilbur's flight. How do we go up and down, forward and back, etc. Recall, Wilbur has no tail or tail rotor or rudder or elevator. Its propeller shafts don't tilt. The only things that we can control are the speeds of the four propellers. At some battery voltage setting, the propeller speed produces just enough speed and lift to overcome gravity, and Wilbur will hover in place. Incidentally, this is typically around 6,000 RPM. Wilbur has four propellers, like four legs on a chair, so while hovering, he's inherently stable. It's useful to think of Wilbur as a chair with four legs. Each leg is held up by a different person with one finger. Looking down on Wilbur, starting at the upper left propeller and going around clockwise, call them Larry, Moe, Curly, and Harpo. So Wilbur can hover and is stable as long as Larry, Moe, Curly, and so forth cooperate. Otherwise, well, we shouldn't talk about that. If we increase the voltage to all the propellers equally, Wilbur will accelerate upward. It's like stepping on the gas pedal in a car. We would then need to decrease the voltage below the hover voltage using gravity as a brake to slow Wilbur's climb. Incidentally, you can hear the speed changes as sound pitch changes when Wilbur's takes off or descends. So one of Wilbur's controls, the left joystick, increases or decreases the propeller speeds equally to cause Wilbur to rise or fall. Push the joystick forward, the speed increases, and Wilbur rises. So how does Wilbur go forward or back? The answer is Wilbur tilts. If we tell Larry and Moe on the front to slow down and Curly and Harpo in the back to speed up, Wilbur will tilt nose down and the propeller thrust vectors will rotate backward out of the vertical and will push Wilbur forward. The right joystick controls all of this. If all of this is really confusing, it's obviously time to quit. Maybe we can clear it up some next week. For now, on to assisted living. Here, there's not much visible activity. There's some digging going on. Things are closed up a little better than before, and the paint is mostly done on the south side. At the east end, they seem to be installing vent boxes in the little square holes. As usual, there are lots of trucks parked around and lots of stuff lying around on the ground waiting to be used or tossed. The lobby area, as usual, shows not much change. Most of the snakes that were on the roofs are gone. They say that snake tastes like chicken, and I noticed that we're having chicken fajitas for lunch. Skipping over to the back side. Whoa, what are all those polka dots in the snow? Moving along the north wall, going west, we see there's not much change. And coming around the west end and looking at the digging going on there, we see that it looks like they're getting ready to build a retaining wall along the sidewalk. That's about it for this week. See you next week.